So this is an important point. Anyways, so in India we also follow. So cut. So just go back to your whole back thing. We are discussing about the fundamental rights as in India. Now, see, generally India has a lot of similarities with United Kingdom, that is UK, because Britishers ruled us. We cannot do anything. Yeah, right. So India follows parliamentary system of government as it is in UK. But there is an important difference. In UK, Parliament is sovereign. That is, Parliament can do whatever law it wants, because there is no difference between a constitution and an ordinary law. Whatever law, it can modify anything just as in the process of ordinary law. That's a very simplistic meaning. But as in India, Parliament is not sovereign, completely sovereign, because Constitution has limited the power of Parliament. Constitution is a written document. And in this constitution only, there are certain articles like fundamental rights, like distribution of powers, wherein constitution has imposed certain limitations on parliament. So parliament is not sovereign. And if parliament goes ahead and does any law which transgress these limitations that are imposed in constitution, then courts have been given the power of judicial review by which they can declare that law as unconstitutional to the extent of violation. So please understand this point very well. So Parliament is not sovereign, number one. Why? Because Constitution is a written document. It itself has certain points which says the limitations of Parliament. It says that Mr. Parliament, you cannot put in your nose into this part. So, when the Constitution itself says that Parliament cannot do it. Now, but going ahead, if Parliament does enact some law which is not in its limitations, which is by transgressing its limitations, then judicial review has been given to the courts, by which the courts can declare these laws as unconstitutional or invalid to the extent of violation. So that is the power in this. Okay. Now, that's how it is different from UK. Now, please write this article down. Article 13. So Article 13, please write it down. See, here we would like to make a very important statement here, Article 13. Now we understood this Article 13 just now. That is, now I will just read out this Article 13. This is very important. Just make a reference in your notes. The state shall not make any law. Please note, the state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges the rights conferred by this part, that is the fundamental rights, part 3. And any law made in contravention of this clause shall to the extent of contravention be void. Please note these words very well. Now, notes on Article 13. Write down these notes. First of all, the state. Now, what we need to answer these questions. Now, the first question we need to answer is, what is the state? Right? The state shall not make any law. Who is a state? The state shall, that's the first question we need to answer. Write down these questions. Subsequent answers we will be providing here. The state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges any right conferred in this part, and any right conferred in this part. So this is the statement. Then what will happen if Parliament goes ahead and does it? So that is the thing, and the next part which follows. And any law made in contravention to this clause shall to the extent of contravention be void. Please note this word, to the extent of contravention be void. See, that means the complete law is not void. So if there is some law which says A, B, C, D points, and A, B, C is valid and only D is violating the law, then we won't say that the entire law is invalid. No, that is wrong. Only that part which is violating becomes invalid. So this is the important point. So which you need to understand very well. Now we need to define what is state. So mark this question. Mark this, what is state. Please leave some gap. because I will define the state a little bit later once we complete this comparison of fundamental rights. So fine, please mark this later. Now we will come back to this later. What the definition of a state as envisioned in Article 13. Fine. Now, so that was how we saw how the fundamental rights in India was different from, how Parliament in India is different from Parliament in UK, and thus fundamental rights is obviously different, because fundamental rights, India has a written constitution, and this is part 3 of the constitution which has given certain fundamental rights. Now, how is it different from United States? Now, there are 5 major differences from United States. The constitution of India is not, the fundamental rights as envisioned in India is not exactly the same as envisioned in United States. Now, what are the differences? The first and foremost difference is, now the American Bill of Rights are absolute, and the power of state to impose restriction upon fundamental rights has to be awarded by judiciary. Please note this point. Now see, the rights as envisioned in American Bill of Rights is absolute. That means there is nothing like, see, if you go through the rights in Indian context, you will find that Article 19. Article 19, the right is defined, and there will be subclasses A, B, C, D, which says when the state can impose these restrictions. See, but in American thing, there is nothing like, in this, okay, this is your right, and in these conditions the right doesn't exist, or this is your right, and in these conditions there will be some limitations you impose on your right. No, American Bill of Rights is absolute. There is nothing limitations as such in American Bill of Rights, and the whole power to modify anything in this Bill of Rights had to be awarded by judiciary. So judiciary will tell legislature, Mr. Legislature, the time has come for you to enact a law. So who is the initiator? Judiciary. Whereas in Indian context, now there are so many laws, so many rights, fundamental rights itself, which are not absolute, because there are certain cases or certain limitations imposed by the constitution or by the article itself. So in India, the fundamental rights are not absolute. And the second important point is, who makes the law? It's the legislature who makes the law. And when does this court come into the picture? Only after the law is made. Please understand this difference. In United States, judiciary is there. Judiciary has to tell Mr. Legislature, do this law. It is needed for the protection of the country. Especially in case whenever it involves the anything. With Bill of Rights. If you are restricting any Bill of Rights, that should be awarded through the judiciary. Judiciary will have to come and tell this to the legislature. But in India, that is not the case. In India, legislature will make a law, and judiciary will consider whether that law is valid or invalid. So there is two important differences if you see. Now in case of India, it is a post factum, that is post. After the law is made, it goes to the court, and court will declare it as unconstitutional. Whereas in American context, this whole concept of generating a restriction is from the court. It should be initiated by the judiciary. So that is the first major difference. Okay, so that is the first major difference. Please write it down. US, in America, Bill of Rights is absolute, and any restriction has to be awarded by judiciary. In India, fundamental rights are not absolute. Not absolute because the article themselves will have clauses which says these are the limitations. And in India, legislature makes a law. After making the law, judiciary will have the power of judicial review. That is, they will see to the law and say whether it is constitutional or unconstitutional. So that is the first major difference.